What's up, Hippo lovers? WTF happened in May 2025. And yeah, that was a month basically dominated by Warlords, the main esport event right now happening, hosted by MemTV. But we also had some other news. First of all, the big DLC dropped, PlayStation release, and viewer numbers on Steam alone reached really solid numbers. This is basically development since the E came out. We see the big COVID wave 1 peak, COVID wave 2 peak. This line is 20,000, not 0. And you can see it constantly stays over 20,000, and it reached around 32,000 the first weekend after the DLC release, which is basically the highest if we exclude the COVID peak. So really solid there. Which brings us to the new DLCs. Obviously, we discussed a lot of criticism about the civilizations and, well, even the design of the civilization when it comes to balancing did not deliver. Khitan's considered to be the strongest civ right now. A lot of bonuses lining up for them. 60% win rate. This is above 1200 on the ladder. And Shu and Wu on crazy spots as well. Rome's obviously heavily benefiting from the Man-at-Arm buff. And on the other side, Jurgens and Wei, the two lowest. So basically the balance, like 3 very strong civs, 2 very low civs, not really what you're aiming for there. I'm pretty sure there will be a balanced patch and people will look at that, but that's not a great state. Also, a quick fun fact, I looked it up, Gojaras on 1200 plus in sub 20-minute games at 28% win rate. So early game Arabia, 1200 plus, 28% win rate. Now, right now they're getting slaughtered with the chicken openings and Man-at-Arms openings. And yeah, really struggling there. And let's talk about Warlords, $70,000 tournament hosted by MemTV. Production has been crazy, hype around it has been crazy as well. 21 really diverse maps. Games have really delivered. Obviously, everything now will include a lot of spoilers. And yeah, the bracket right now looks like this. We are in the semifinals. Hera, Tedo, Yoliri being played on Saturday. Finals Sunday over here. You know all about that. But we obviously have to talk a lot about what happened before. Because there was a lot of, let's call it, drama when it comes to group stages. Because the main thing here that is different for Warlords compared to a lot of other tournaments that we had is the tiebreaker rule in the group stage. So basically, if you win 3 sets out of your opponent, there's always groups of 4, so you play 3 matches. If you win all 3, you're always through, right? It's always match wins first, or set wins first. But after that, the number of match wins ensues between the involved players that have the same match score. So if multiple people have 2 wins, multiple people have 1 win. Then it's direct opponent first compared to map wins, which most people otherwise do. So typically the number 3 here is the number 1. So this is different here. This was intended to have more meaningful games later on. Didn't really work out with this, and there was a lot of critique around this. Let's go into a bit more detail what happened here. And let's go group by group. Group A. We have Baltz having strong performances, going 2-3 against Hera, beating Yo 3-2, and he plays Freaking Andy, who's 0-6. If Baltz now loses to Freaking Andy, he is out. Because he will have the direct comparison loss against Andy, although he had a great performance and Andy is 0-6. Which felt really odd for some fans, and especially Baltz himself. Group B. Next interesting scenario. Now we have 2 matchups still happening on the 3rd day. Those are all the standings after 2 rounds. So this is basically before the last round of sets. Tedo is playing hard. Tedo wins. Now Jordan is playing against MBL. It's 2-1, 1-2, and those 2 are 1-1. And it goes into a game 5 decider with the score 2-2. And now the scenario is Jordan, if he wins 3-2, he's first in the group because he won against Tedo. If he loses 2-3, he's 4th in the group. So this is like really, really tight. Obviously, this was a really tight group. And with a lot of formats, sometimes one single game can decide a lot. We had like something like one game counting a lot in TTL, for example, before, where every game counts. And set wins are not that important, or not important at all. So that was kind of controversial. In the end, it was Balz going through, beating Andy, and it was Jordan losing 2-3. So he was out, although he beat Tado. Now we go into Group C, where we had the scenario that Daud was playing against Mihai, and Daud could only advance if he wins 3-0 and nothing else. Daud wins game 1. Daud wins game 2. And basically all comes down to one single game. If Daud wins 3-0, he's going into the playoffs. And if he loses, he's 4th and he's out. He loses that game, it's 2-1. And they stop playing. Because there was no more incentive, right? It was 2-1 and they stopped playing. A lot of people felt like that wasn't pretty. I personally think you don't need viewers to watch games that don't matter. Force players to have games that don't matter. I didn't mind that one at all. Now we're getting into the really tricky scenario. Sebastian, after losing 2 sets 2-3 against Citeaux and Winchester, has no chance of advancing going into the 3rd match here. I think we can keep it like this, yeah. So Leary and Sebastian are playing against each other. Leary guaranteed first, Sebastian guaranteed last. So a match that didn't matter at all. Also can happen in round robin systems. The tricky thing here is that we have 3 people advancing out of 4. That makes it a bit wild. We could have had like a double elimination system. Win twice, you are first. Lose twice, you are last. Be 1-1 in groups. And you're 2nd, 3rd. Could be an option there, but then you lose a full playing day. Or like you will lose 8 matches. Yeah, there are different approaches to this, and lots of people have different ideas on how to structure the tournament. There was one very tricky situation, though, and I will try to explain this one more in detail. The situation is that Leary lost to Sebastian in the match that didn't matter. Sebastian was guaranteed out. Leary was guaranteed first. And now Winchester and Citeaux are playing on who becomes 2nd and who gets 3rd in their group. And you can see in the playoffs, if you get 2nd, you get ACCM, world ranking number 5, into Hera, world ranking number 1. If you get 3rd, you get Mihai, world ranking 17, into Tado, world ranking 8. So 17-8 or 5-1. So both players were actually incentivized here to not win if they wanted an earlier bracket. And this is a really tricky scenario to handle. A really tricky scenario for the players, tricky scenario for the admins. Multiple ways to go around this. First of all, we could have done a different bracket, right? We could have, like, different tournament structure. We won't have that. We could have had different tiebreakers. We didn't have that. One thing that could have happened is that those brackets were not pre-released. And you kind of draw them only between the last group stage and into the playoffs. Makes it tricky. There was not a lot of time between. You kind of want to schedule as well. But players could be available for a $70,000 tournament. They knew that that tournament, it's the final week, right? You can kind of expect them to be available as well. That would have solved the problem. But also, you kind of want to avoid rematches, like first in a group and second in a group shouldn't face each other to the finals. You don't want to have second and third player face each other before the semifinals. And like there are like deductions on how brackets can form. So there's still the scenario where you could calculate, okay, those brackets in average are easier for me than those brackets. So the best scenario, I believe, and something that's often adjusted in those situations, is you let Citeaux and Winchester play, and the winner picks whichever spot they want. Because now the scenario was both players had an advantage for losing. And that's something you never want to have in a tournament structure, right? That happened in the past, like even in biggest sports competitions. And this led to both players not playing 100%, Citeaux playing for more visibly noticeable suboptimal strategies. On stream, also said that he didn't fully play his best strategies, didn't fully try out 100%. He still played, games happened, but people got upset about what's happened. This is a tricky scenario though now, right? And there's one camp simply saying every single game you play, you should play to win. Every single game. Maybe every set you should play to win. Maybe the whole tournament you should play to win. And if you want to have the best chances to make most prize money in the tournament, Citeaux and Winchester were both incentivized to lose. Winchester just kind of accepted it. Like the interview afterwards, he was not happy. He clearly would have preferred the other bracket as well. It was a really unfortunate situation that could have been avoided, should have been avoided. And Citeaux is now getting a lot of trash talk, especially because if we now think about the overall standings afterwards, if we give us the results, Citeaux, even after intentionally not winning the series, has -4 and still advances in front of Sebastian, who has 7-8. Right? So a lot of especially passionate South Americans felt like, Citeaux, what you did was so wrong. Sebastian should have advanced. Obviously, if tiebreaker rules were different, Citeaux would have played differently, right? Yeah, I think honestly, and I might get hate for that as well, if I'm the player, if I'm in Citeaux's and Winchester's position, I message the admins and say, this is something that shouldn't happen. This is a situation where losing is rewarded. We should play. Winner can pick the spot. And if admins refuse that, I'm thinking about my tournament life as well. That's my approach to things. I think it's totally fine if you think, okay, every single game you have to give your best. Yeah, but I 100% message the admins beforehand. Yeah. Okay, and that leads to the playoffs that we have. Lots of people really happy after Citeaux lost to Tado. I think that's completely unjustified, but I understand passionate people that want to see every single game played to 100%. But Citeaux also got rewarded, played against Mihai, against ACM, might have been a tougher set. Both of them actually advanced. Hera went through, Hera Winchester, really interesting set. Viper Yo went to distance here. Viper, I think, led 2-0, then 3-2, and we went into the decider there. And also we had the comeback here. Balch leading 3-1 and Hart coming back 4-3. Lirio, Hera, Tado, the two semifinals. And yeah, that's going to be really interesting. I hope you tune in. I think it's going to be a really interesting, very likely drama-free weekend ahead of us. Yeah. I hope that was understandable. Okay, then Game of the Month. Lots of people recommended it last month already, but it wasn't last month. It was this month. So Game of the Month of May is going to be the longest Dark Age ever, it's called. And you can see 14 minutes in, Eco KD is 7-16, and you see 5 militia on the field, 5 militia on the field soon, villager fight all over it, and this one goes for a very long time. And yeah, I will just share the link. If you like this, you will enjoy the game quite a bit. Look ahead, we will have a 2v2 tournament called the Cartographers. coming up. Historically hosted by the Viper. Now T-West took that one over. And all the top players are playing this one. Going to be really, really interesting. Starting directly next week after Warlords conclude. That was a look at. And clip of the month. I have 2 clip of the month for you. One big recommendation. Balt, the absolute genius, at it again and composed a song. And it was a mixture of pathfinding clips and some nice lyrics next to it. I will link the full song down below. Just a masterpiece by Balt again. And Krasini, the main admin, together with Roa Rimbo of Warlords, was at the Town Center, a podcast hosted by GL, and talked about map scripting, talked about Warlords. And there was one very specific question that he got asked. Let's see what he had to say.
What would you consider? What would make you happy with Warlords 4 in terms of how you feel about it being good or bad?
If you get a bunch of good games and no drama, I'd be a very happy man.
Well, little did he know. Oh, that's it from me. Goodbye, Hippo lovers.